but it's never going to be just handed to you. You got to work. That takes drive and dedication and sometimes loneliness. You don't get to go out clubbing with your friends. You got to focus on what your goals are.
Yo, 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 this is the Streetwise podcast. We're here to help you level up your game, level up your leadership, and level up your life. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds. I'm a multi-brand franchisee, and I'm a franchise consultant where I help people find, launch, and build their ideal business. My main goal is to help you get off of zero and become the person that your dreams need you to be. Buckle up, get your popcorn ready. Let's go. Man, I do not think I've ever been more excited for an episode on this podcast. Today we have Maya Ratcliff, the founder of Hawaii Fluid Art, a franchise concept that is up and coming and is so much fun. I took my kids there and they had a blast. Now, I first heard Maya Ratcliff tell her story and how she got started on Franchise Empires podcast by The Wolf. And I know recently she was just on another podcast, Franchise Secrets. So Wolf, Mr. Eric Van Horn, both you guys just know I'm coming for you because Maya came on my podcast too and laid it down. Straight fire. She's got to be one of my favorite guests that I've ever had on the show. She was absolutely amazing. Her story is amazing and just such an inspiration for somebody to be able to pick themselves up from failure and create something as beautiful and as impactful as what I know Hawaii Fluid Art is going to be for so many people, so many communities, so many franchisees, but also people who are going to come and be consumers of what the business is all about. So sit back, enjoy this episode, and let's go get it. Maya Ratcliff, let's go. All right, Miss Maya Ratcliff, welcome to the Streetwise stage. How you doing today?
I'm doing groovy. Thank you for having me.
There we go. I should have worn my groovy attire as well, but it is what it is. I gotta say, I'm honored to have you on. I'm just so grateful. Can you tell the people who you are and what you do for a living? And we can just start there.
Well, I always tell people I'm just a girl. I'm just a normal woman that has a big vision and a lot of drive. And I am the founder of Hawaii Fluid Art, an art franchise that's been around now for almost 2 years.
Wow, 2 years already?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So how many units are you guys sitting at right now?
Just over 200.
Whoa. And are they all open and operating?
I wish. In franchising, It's about getting them open, but we only launched to the public May 1st last year. So we've only been selling franchises not even for 2 years. So this year we've sold 103 units in 2023. We have about 30 open, but what's fun is we have 40 opening in the next 4 months. Right now we're on target to open 10 a month moving forward. Yeah.
Oh, that is really, really cool. Okay, so I guess before we get too far into the weeds here, how did you come up with Hawaii Fluid Art? I know the story because I followed you for a little bit, but just, for the audience, let us get a quick recap.
So it was an accident. I was actually taking art classes and I was horrible at all of them. My husband had said that I needed a hobby. I was restructuring small businesses for a living. I had a consulting firm and I think I was just irritating him, honestly. And he said, girl, you need a hobby. And so I tried all these art classes and I was bad at not just a little bad, but bad. And so I decided that I was going to find an art form because I feel that art should be uplifting and joyous and fun and fulfilling. And everything that I did that took a brush, I was bad at. And so I worked with paints and different mediums and slowly came up with my art medium and just started talking about it on Facebook and showing the things that I had painted myself. And then people started asking me to buy my art. And then they started asking me to teach. And I started teaching people with brain injuries and different types of abilities. And that was very successful. And then people started asking me to teach more and more. So we ended up opening a studio in our detached 2-car garage. And in the first 6 months, I taught over 1,000 people my different art methods. And once again, my husband chirped up and said, "Hey, babe, let's get a retail location so we don't have people at our house all the time." So we
Yeah.
opened our first location of Hawaii Fluid Art May 1st, 2021. And it's kind of exploded since then.
Wow. Okay. So the name Hawaii Fluid Art.
Mhm.
You were living in Hawaii at the time?
Yeah, Big Island of Hawaii. Yes. We had lived on the islands for about 9 years. And so it
Whoa.
was founded on the islands of Hawaii, but it goes beyond that. So have you ever been to Hawaii?
I haven't, but my wife has, and she is very excited to go back.
So there is something called, I'm going to get a little emotional by accident. There's something called the Aloha Spirit. And what that
Okay.
is where one person does for another person just because it's the right thing to do. In Hawaii, when you're moving, you don't have to ask anybody to show up because all your friends, your neighbors, everybody's going to show up because it's Pono. You do the right thing. And I named Hawaii Fluid Art number one because I lived in Hawaii, but more importantly, to honor the Hawaiian people because they are full of aloha. They are absolutely about doing the right thing. And they are the best group of humans that I've ever been honored to be able to call my neighbors. And so the name Hawaii Fluid Art goes beyond just the state of Hawaii. Sorry,
Oh,
tears.
that is absolutely amazing. No, thank you. I really appreciate that. How did you get to Hawaii? You said you lived there for, did you say 9 years?
Yeah, yeah. So I used to work for Wells Fargo as a corporate banker. And in 2000 and I think it was 2012, they laid off 4,500 of their top income earners. And I was one of those. And I had worked for Wells Fargo for years. And we already had a trip planned to Maui at the time. And I was in a bad mood. I mean, I just got laid off from a good paying job. What am I going to do now? And we went to Maui with with our family on vacation, and we were sitting there at the last day of vacation, and I said to my husband, I said, "Let's just move here. Let's just start over. Let's just move here." And so we decided to move to Hawaii, not realizing how hard the housing market is because you just don't know, for 6 weeks until we found a rental house. And let me tell you, that first rental house, I think it had more rats than windows. Seriously, it was bad.
Oh, no.
It was so bad. But we slowly built a life on the islands, and my husband was a executive director for Marriott, so he had a great job.
Okay.
And I started my consulting business because everybody told me I was overqualified for a real job.
Sure. So when
Yeah.
you say consulting business, who are you
Mhm.
consulting? Who is your target audience?
Small businesses, small to medium sized businesses that needed help completely revamping their SOPs, hiring, firing. We tried never to fire, but sometimes you had to. It was really about retraining employees, restructuring marketing, all of it. I took my business experience for the last 25 plus years and just helped other small businesses achieve and get to where they need to go. And so, yeah, I consulted for small to medium sized businesses.
Okay, so you're doing that
Mhm.
and you're living in Hawaii. So how long were you there before you start feeling the burnout and your husband recommends you start getting a hobby?
Let's see, we were there for about 7 years, and
Okay.
then that's about the time that he suggested a hobby, and I spent about 6 months
Okay.
doing all these horrible art classes before before coming up with, my own art form and really creating things that made my heart whole.
So that's just so interesting to me. So you're a corporate executive,
Mhm.
you are self-proclaimed not artistic, and I've heard you say on other podcasts, you're creative,
Yeah.
but not necessarily artistic, but here you are and you're able to create your own form of art. Was it by accident? Was it trial and error? Did you look up a bunch of YouTube videos and then you're able to do your own thing? How the heck did that happen?
So, I was taking some acrylics classes, and I had
Okay.
I had paint in the bottom of the bottle that I needed to get, and I couldn't get it out of there with a brush. So I watered it down and I
Oh.
dumped it on the plate and it flowed across the plate. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. And so I watered down more paint and I floated across the paper plate. And I was like, oh, I don't have to use a
Oh.
brush and I can make something. So I kept playing and and refining my process until I was working it on canvases. And now it's all history.
Oh, that's so cool because that's the exact same thing I do when I've got the last little bit of hair conditioner in the shower. You can't you can't get to it. You fill it up with water and just that's amazing. Oh my gosh. So something so little, so just such a little epiphany can turn into something so absolutely beautiful and amazing. What a testament just right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So so you see it.
Yep.
What gave you the gumption to like, "Oh, this is a thing. That I could turn this into a hobby. I can turn this from a hobby to a hustle." That's something I talk about a lot. I don't know if you've heard anything that I do or put out. I
Yeah.
don't expect you to have, but that's really big for me. How do I get my hobby and turn it into a hustle? And
Yeah.
that's sounds like that's exactly what you did. What was it in your mind that kinda sparked it initially?
Initially, I wasn't planning on having the hustle. I just wanted to help people. These people, COVID was happening. Everybody was depressed. The news was all crap. And so I
Mm,
was like, let's do something positive. And so I started just wanting to share what I had learned, but I found myself being a little protective. Like I wouldn't tell people what was in it. I wouldn't tell people what my secret was, but I would do art classes with them. And the demand was shocking to me. And I thought, with this much demand, I'm never going to be slow in my own business. So I opened my first store May 1st, my first retail location, May 1st, 2021. And I thought, this is awesome. But I had never thought of franchising. I didn't know anything about franchising. That happened from a random conversation with a well-known actor. That's how we ended up franchising.
that's amazing. Okay. So I was gonna it's interesting that it came out organically like this because I was gonna ask you about the mental health aspect because
Mhm.
my wife and I in 2019, now we've got 3 kids, beautiful, they're beautiful kids and they're
I've got
healthy, but in 2019, my son who's 6 now, so he would have been about 2, my wife got pregnant with a daughter and she was 38 weeks pregnant and we lost her.
Oh
And, we
God.
just went through such a hard time, and, I mean, it took me out of everything, and, I'm so thankful that in that moment, I was already running our business at Mosquito Joe,
Mhm.
and I had already had a team, and I already had leaders in place, and so I was able to take the time that I needed to
Mhm.
process, but I've always been an athlete, and so I went straight into, like, running. Running was my therapy, and it still
Mhm.
is. But if I didn't have that, I
Yeah.
don't know what I would have done, and so I'm always interested in how people process through pain, and so you kind of have already answered it with the I mean, you said it organically, but is there anything to maybe in your story that you've kinda had to process through how the therapy has helped you, the art has helped you?
Yeah. Well, it has helped me, but I think more importantly, I'm going to tell you just about, I'm going to get my tissue here because my students mean a lot to me. And I have a woman who suffered a traumatic brain injury, and her husband had reached out to me because she had no short term memory, limited long term memory. And he just said, look, I really want her to experience what you're doing. Can I bring her by your studio? And so I would just do just she and I. She would stay for about an hour and a half, and I would have her help me mix paint and put thumbtacks in the back of canvases, and we would just talk. And of course, in the beginning, she wouldn't remember, and she'd come back, and we'd do everything all over again. And then her husband called me, and he said, "I know it's not our day. No, today is not Wednesday, but my wife woke up asking if she could go to art class today because yesterday she
Oh
had
my
such a good time."
gosh.
And that was profound to know that just some girl could help somebody that had such a traumatic experience in their life through art. And that's when it really changed from a hobby to how can I help more people that have different abilities. And so everything in this business has been because of an aha moment. Somebody whose life we've helped, somebody who said something to me, somebody who, said to me, Maya, I really think you need to franchise this. And I've never seen anything in the world like it. And I have traveled the world. And I think everybody deserves to experience Hawaii fluid art. I mean, that's how I looked into franchising. It's surreal to me that how many people have impacted where Hawaii art is today, most of those being my students. And so when you
Wow.
can give to people like that, it's obviously going to heal you as a human. And so I just find myself being a more, what do I say, softer, gentler, kinder human because of what I can give to others. And now, don't get me wrong,
Wow.
I'm still a pain and a handful, but softer, gentler.
Yeah, there's always a range and a balance for
Yeah.
sure. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's helpful for me to hear the heart behind, this amazing thing that you're building, and I think somebody's going to listen to that, and that's going to encourage them. What I've found through my experience is, when we suffer through pain, it can be a very isolating experience,
Mhm.
but for me, again, by the grace of God, I mean, I was able to realize that everybody has gone through some sort of traumatic, painful experience one way or the other. And it's
Yeah.
through sharing that experience that we actually learn how to understand each other.
It's
And it's through our pain. Processing our pain is what actually leads us to our purpose. And so it's really powerful that you shared that story. What? So I want to talk about the franchising stuff because I'm a
yeah.
franchisee of multiple brands and I'm a franchise consultant as well. But I'm still interested in you and I want to hear about so you got your corporate executive at Wells Fargo, get laid off, and then you pivot majorly. I mean, you restructure your whole family and shout out to your husband. I mean, he sounds like an all-star. You say, let's move here. He says, okay, yeah. Let's do it. I'm sure there was more there than
No,
I'm
that
sure
was
there
it.
was
He's
more
like,
there
okay,
than
he's an incredible human being. I, I try and explain to people that the partner I have in my husband, he makes me a better person. He makes me
Mm,
want to be a better person. He brings out the absolute best in me. He supports everything I do. We've invested every single penny that we've ever made, that we've ever had into making Hawaii fluid art better. And he has been supportive 100% of the time. He's never said, what about our retirement? He's said, let's help the Z's. And
let's
I
go.
know, I know how lucky I am to have that kind of a
Let's
partner.
go.
Yeah.
That is outstanding. Okay. So this is again, I like to do things out of order, but it's very conversational. I feel like there's a natural flow to the way that we're talking right now. So I guess where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What was your family structure like when you were a kid? And then get me to where you meet your husband. I just want to
Okay.
hear this backstory real quick.
Okay. So started off in the Bay Area, living a
All
fairly
right.
privileged life. Big plot twist in a minute. But my mother was the hustler, just a grinder, would work hard.
Yeah.
She passed when she was 31 years old and I was 9. And my father is blind. So close your eyes. That's what he can see. He's never seen me. He never saw his mom. He's been blind since he was a kid. And my birth mother, the breadwinner and everything else, passed away. So my dad ended up remarrying my mom, my now mom. She's been my mom for so many years. I call her my mom. And decided that they wanted to move from the Bay Area to the middle of nowhere. And when I mean the middle of nowhere, I mean we didn't have electricity, we didn't have running water. We lived so I went from gave us everything to dad and stepmom living in a 10-foot by 50-foot trailer. That's what it was. It was a trailer that my brother and I had to share a hide-a-bed. It was traumatic. We were very, very poor. I don't know how else to explain it. When my mom passed, there was no medical benefits, no life insurance. And so we literally had nothing. Like, I didn't even have a winter coat. No big deal. It's part of what's made me who I am. Well, this town that they moved me to was called Hayfork, and very in the mountains of California. And I went to Hayfork High School, where my husband was the star football player. Okay. Now, I became a cheerleader.
Yeah,
I
he
was a
was.
cheerleader. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Ooh, defense. And we didn't like each other. He was a pogue, he thought he was cool. I was busy. I took advanced classes. I started college when I was young. So I was always gone in the summers taking classes. And I thought he was just ridiculous. Well, our best friends dated. So we were always around each other, but never liked each other. So just fast forward. I go off and do my life. He goes off and does his life. And about 15 years ago, I get a message on Facebook that he was thinking about moving someplace that I used to live, and he wanted to get my advice. And so we were just talking as, hey, how's life going? Yada, yada, yada. And no, I had a business meeting in the Bay Area where he lived. This is when I was working for Wells Fargo. And he said, hey, I'll pick you up from the airport. And I was like, that would be great. So he picks me up from the airport. I walk off the airplane outdoors, and there he is leaning against his car, and he gives me a big hug. Okay. Now you have to remember, I am independent, outspoken, fierce, fairly bratty at this point in my life. I'm a handful, completely independent. He gives me a hug, and I started bawling. And he says, what's the matter? And I said, I don't know. I feel safe for the first time in my life. And we've been together ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of convoluted.
Wow.
That was my upbringing. That's how I met had my parents never moved me to that crazy little podunk town, I would have never known him. And now here he is, my partner in life. And so, yeah, that's how I met. I used to be his cheerleader in high school, and a hug outside of the San Francisco airport changed my life. Yeah.
Yo, thanks for listening this far. It's at this point in the episode that I want to talk about Streetwise franchising, teaching, training, building, Streetwise franchising. As a franchise consultant, it's my job, it's my absolute pleasure to be able to help aspiring entrepreneurs find, launch, and build their ideal business. If you've always wanted to start your own business, but you don't know where to start, if you want to leave that corporate job, but you're a little afraid to take the risk, I'm here to help. I've been a franchise owner for almost a decade. I've learned what it means to build a team, to run a business, to struggle. And I know, based on my experience, how to help others find the right ideal business for them. Streetwise franchising. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Let's get back to the episode.
Man, thank you for sharing that. But golly, 9 years old,
Mm-hmm.
lose your parent, the
Mm-hmm.
parent that was the hustler, and I mean your mom. Gosh, how have you? I can only imagine that the hole that left. What mentorship have you had now that you're an adult and you're kind of looking back? Who fed into you? Who was the one that you can look at and say, if it wasn't for this person or that person, I wouldn't be the person that I am today?
I should have a strong answer for that. And I don't have the best answer. And this is why. I was a lot of a loner. When you lose your parent at a young age, it just changes something in you. But what it did is it made me,
Yeah.
how do I say this without sounding like a jerk? When my birth mother died, she was an amazing, hardworking woman, and I respected her and loved her. When my dad took over, his choices weren't great. And what I knew is that I didn't want to follow in those footsteps. And that motivated me. He loved me, and he would encourage me and things like that. But I was never going to be dirt broke. I was never going to put my children through that. I was never going to give up and run away. I was going to face things head on and I was going to fight. So it's almost like everything I didn't have as a child, the love, the nurture, the support, the normalcy is really what's helped create who I am today, because I am driven to give to people. I mean, if I find out somebody can't pay their rent, I'm going to figure out a way to help pay their rent. And it's not about like people that I looked up to and said, oh, I want to be like them. It's sad to say, but it was more like people I was around in my childhood that I didn't want to be anything like. And I went the complete opposite direction.
That is the soundbite right there that I know for a fact somebody needed to hear. So my background is in education in the inner city. And so before I started these businesses, I was working in the hood. I worked in Chicago on the west side, and then I moved to Dallas and was on the south side. And the reason I made this podcast and was to help somebody get off of zero, because so many people who have nothing, or they think they have nothing, they use that as an excuse because they don't understand that they have the resources inside of them and around them to level up. Maybe they
Yes.
just don't know how. And I mean, my father-in-law, for an example, he is a Hall of Fame NFL football player. He won a Super Bowl, and this amazing guy. But you backtrack, it was a broken family. He was the youngest of 10 in the Houston, Texas. And it was a decision that he made that I will not turn out like everything else that's around me. I will do whatever it takes. And I just think there's so much power in that. And again, our pain leads us to our purpose. So thank you so very much for sharing that. Man, I'm just even more impressed by you now. I did not expect that. Wow. Okay, man. So you've already touched on personal struggles and failures. I love touching on failures, because so many of these podcasts, we talk about our successes. We talk about how amazing everything is.
Yeah.
And I mean, Hawaii Fluid Art is killing it right now. And I know you've overcome so many things in your personal life. Curious. I mean, you guys are launching 40 in the next, how many months are coming out?
We'll have, within 6 months,
40 locations?
we'll have another 40 open. Yeah. We've got like 30 open right now. We had 8 open this month.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. Oh, and that's awesome. And I gotta say, so before I even finish my question, I took my kids to the Frisco location, and they absolutely loved the experience. We live in DFW out in Murphy, but took my kids to I think the nearest one right now is in Frisco.
Yeah.
And they had so much fun. My 6-year-old and my 3-year-old. My 3-year-old need a little help kind of getting it over there, but it was just such a cool experience. What's been one of the struggles? So there's a very famous actor, and from other podcasts I've heard, like in Hawaii, you just had such a positive feedback for what you were doing, to where like, hey, this is amazing. You need to spread this out. What's been some struggles now that you are franchising it that might have been some unknowns, things that you're having to overcome now that you didn't expect when you first got started?
That's a good question. So I really put a lot of effort and energy into building out the franchise prior to launching it. And I would look for a pothole and I'd build a bridge. And I'd look for a pothole and I'd build a bridge. And I spent a lot of time doing that, but you can never be perfect. So vetting your franchisee, extremely important. And I messed up.
Okay.
I messed up. I came through a broker who wanted multiple locations, who came across as amazing. Had I done a little research, I would have found out he wasn't so amazing. And, he was a real valuable learning lesson. And, one of the reasons they call them valuable learning lessons is because they cost you. They cost you time, effort, energy, money. And he is a nightmare. He's no longer in our system. So that was huge, to find out that there are people out there that are going to scam and lie. And I needed that wake up call, because I do everything with a pure heart, as do people on my team. And so when you have somebody coming to you, like they want to build this business, they want to do this, this, and this, and then you find out it's not really true, it hurts, And so we completely restructured our vetting process. So our potential franchisees have a lot of homework they have to do, a lot. And had I implemented that in the beginning, but you don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, I didn't know anything about franchising when I started. This has been a whirlwind education. If they had a book, Franchising for Dummies, I should have read it because I missed that one. But I don't think they do.
Maybe I'll write that one. Yeah,
Right.
that's good.
I'll help you. Let's have a chapter. Some other things. Number one is
All
you
right.
never have
Yeah,
enough
no doubt.
money. You're never going to have enough money. When you're a franchisor, people assume that you're rich, but no, not if you're doing it right. You're dumping all that money back into your business. And so being properly funded, something that's interesting is that I bootstrapped this thing. I've never borrowed money I've never taken a loan. I've never taken a bank loan. Did we clean out our 401ks? Yeah. Did we sell our house and put all the money in it? Yeah. But, we don't owe any money on the business, which is a big deal. Maybe if I would redo it, I'd get some advice on big, deep financing issues. You want to use other people's money, not your own money. There's just different things. And there's being a consultant, as you have insight from so many different businesses. And that's valuable to a franchisor, especially a franchisor who wants to learn, who doesn't think they know it all. And having consultants reach out to me with ideas and tidbits and things like that really helps save me from making some mistakes that other brands have made that I've heard about. You can't grow too fast. If you grow too fast, you don't have the team power behind it. Well, what I do is I hire team members before we need them. Well, it's painful on payroll, right? But you got to do it. So we have a corporate staff of 20 people that take care of the franchisees. And so I think every time I would make a little mistake, I would really think about it and how can I not make another big one? There's always little things, like marketing is always going to be a pain in the butt, right? You got to find the right marketing people. And yeah, so I've made some little errors, but I've made more good decisions, I think. I hope.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's the whole concept of failing forward.
Yes.
Is super important and having that mindset. So you've touched on a couple things that perfectly go into the flow of what I wanted to ask you next. So first, I'll ask you, how is the broker network, franchise consultants, how have there been any particular individuals or any networks or just any overall influence that has helped you specifically kind of get this thing off the ground?
I want to say that in the beginning, when you are a brand that nobody's heard of, everybody stays away from you. Nobody is going to take a risk, right? This is a brand nobody knows. Well, I was fortunate in the fact that, there's a couple people out there that met me, didn't even know about the brand at the time, just met me. I was at a franchise convention and they took an interest in me as a person and then found out about my brand and said, hey, why don't you come to the franchise expo? Why don't you come to a franchise expo and see what happens? And I was like, oh, I just couldn't afford it. I didn't have the money. And they were like, hey, it's on us. And I showed up at this franchise expo.
Oh, wow.
And I painted in person. I had this little booth and I painted, and we were the star of the show. People just surrounding our space. And at that point, that person reached out to me and said, hey, we have not seen a booth have that much impact or that many people around it. Will you come to more? And I'm like, yeah. And so they really gave me an in into these franchise expos. And that was Nick Neonakis. And then we have a franchise consultant that has sold, I don't even know how many units, 30 units maybe. That's Patrick Elsner. And that man loves our brand and he's a hustler and he does not let me get away with anything, man. He knows if he sends me a lead, we're touching that lead immediately. And I think something that's kind of interesting is that I talk to every potential franchisee. I'm the first point of contact. We don't have a sales department.
Nice.
We're information givers, and I'm the first one to talk to them. I would say that there is so many different people in the industry who have been kind, and there's some real assholes out there too. But I choose to celebrate the beauty in the industry, and you got to focus on the good and just let go of the bad. And I think anybody that I come into contact with has some sort of information that can help my brand be better and help me as a human be better. You just have to be open to it and realize that you don't know what you don't know. And you guys sometimes know more than me.
Now, I don't know if I fall into that category yet. I'm still pretty new, but what a beautiful answer. Thank you. I became a consultant because as a franchisee, I realized that I loved talking on the validation calls. And as an educator by trade, I just loved being able to tell my story. I am vulnerable and open to a fault at times. And so I will tell every single mistake that I've made. I will talk about the flaws in the system. I'll talk about the benefits of the system. And I mean, I'm a franchisee in two really big parent companies right now. And so I get to see kind of behind the curtain on a lot of different things. And I've seen a lot of people get taken advantage of in the franchise space. And so I wanted to go about it at a different way of it might take me a little bit longer, but if I can give away enough free game, enough free value over time, I'll build something that's really, really big, and it'll help because I know it'll help a lot of people by being real and being open. And so that's been my strategy. And so I appreciate that out of kind of what you're saying in your narrative, because I think it's really important because a lot of people do get taken advantage of in the franchising space.
They knew, there's that it's part of life. Unfortunately, people get it taken advantage in every aspect of life. And it's just people like you and me and other good people that want to just give and help them. And that's all we can do.
Yeah. So, okay. So Nick Nianakis, that's FCC, right? Franchise Consulting Company. So I'm with Fran Choice. So I don't think you guys are in the franchise bucket. I think that's more because you say
we are.
Did I misspeak?
We actually
let's go.
We joined next week. We'll be at the convention. It's a surprise. Nobody knows yet.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. So do I have to hold out on this episode now? Because we just said that. Do I need to wait for a couple weeks before I post it?
Oh, man. I don't know. That's up to you. So we just went, that us. And so we just got done with all the vetting and we just got the official thumbs up. Yeah. We just got the official thumbs up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
so
congratulations. Because I know it's really hard to. That is amazing. Okay, that is awesome. Because I know, again, I'm fairly new. I just launched with Franchoice back officially in September.
Yeah.
And so I'm a new consultant, but I've been on the journey for just about a year. It took me dang near a year to get into Franchoice, and I was referred to them, and things kind of just fell into place, and it worked out. And I love it. I love the team. I love the people. People have been so helpful. And open and willing to share information. And it seems like a really good network. And gosh, that's exciting. So I'm going to get to meet you in New Orleans in January. Is that what you're telling me?
We both live in DFW. We could just get together and you can bring the kids down to my studio. Yeah.
Okay, that's true. That's true. Okay.
I'll entertain them. And then you can have.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I think we only live like 40 minutes apart.
Oh yeah, there's no excuse to not do that. That's definitely going to happen.
I will be there in January.
100%.
I just booked my hotel rooms last night, and there's some other super huge announcements coming out. We might have to do another one of these because there's we just got. I'll give you a little tidbit, and then you can get rid of it if you want to. So Fox Business came at National. Fox Business National came and filmed at our studios for 8 hours, and it airs in January. We were named top brand of 2023 for Trending Today on Fox Business and Bloomberg.
Oh, that is so exciting. Congratulations. That's really cool.
Crazy.
So
It's
when is
crazy.
that gonna get when's that gonna get put out?
January. So they were going to do it in December, except for holiday
Okay.
stuff. So it's coming out in January. Yeah. So there's a few things like that are getting ready to kind of change the forward trajectory of Hawaii Float Art. I mean, we're already flying, but there's some news coverage that's coming out that I think is going to impact our future. Yeah.
Oh, let's go. That is so cool. Okay. Okay. That's awesome. All right. So my next, I don't want to run out of time just gushing over you right now in Hawaii Fluid Art and everything. So get back to the other thing I wanted to talk about. All right. So
Yes.
I asked you about the broker networks,
Yep.
but I want to learn about your team. So you said you have about 20 or so people. How did you, so when you started, one of the hardest things that a new entrepreneur does is actually build out not just the team, but actually the leadership team and have to delegate tasks and responsibilities and giving up a piece of the soul in order to make the pie bigger. How did you start? What were those first couple steps like?
Uh,
And then kind of take us through the process to what the team is like now.
okay. So in the beginning, I opened a store in Oklahoma, not Oklahoma. I don't know where that came from, in Kansas City, Missouri. And I hired a guy by the name of
Okay.
Anderson. And Anderson was a part-time instructor. Anderson just hustled, 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 hustled. And when I was ready to launch the franchise, I was like, dude, I know you can do it. I need you on my leadership team. So he was number one. He'd worked for me as an instructor, but I had seen this talent in him and this drive and this capability that just hadn't been uncovered. It was in there and I could see it, but he couldn't even see it at the time. And so that was Anderson. And he was the first person on the franchise entity team. And then
Okay.
we go back to that town I was raised in. And I had worked with a woman who her name was Trinity, and she went to the same high school as me, raised with nothing, poverty. And she was one of those grinders too. She was never going to be like that. She was going to succeed. She was working for the state of Mississippi. And her background was real estate, real estate, real estate, real estate. And I called her and I said, Trinity, I can't pay you shit, but I will one day. And I gave notice to her job that day and started working for Hawaii Fluid Art as our director of real estate acquisition and construction management. Because you
Wow.
have to be able to find the spaces, and then you've got to be able to, look at all the build out things. And so what I did, I think the most interesting part of it is that when I would have a franchisee that had some amazing special quality and I could just see it, I would say, if you would ever consider working for corporate as well as being one of our franchisees, I would be honored to help find a position for you. So we now have 5 franchisees that are on the leadership team. We have
Oh, that's
more
amazing.
coming on board. Yeah. And so our team is large. We have openers. So we have 4 openers that travel around the United States and help set up stores and do the training and everything. We have 2 franchisee success managers that counsel the franchisees after they're open with anything and everything that they could need. We have, of course, Trinity, our director of real estate acquisition. We have Kip, who is a franchisee, who is our director of brand expansion. And I won't name all of our staff, but give you an idea that leadership team is myself, Trinity, who both work for corporate.
That's amazing. Okay, so you've got franchisees that are on the team, and that's got to help so much when it comes to validation
Mhm.
and talking to new potential candidates that they can actually see that the people that are on the team are actually operating the business, because there's a lot of lip service that can happen from the development, but if you see development that actually owns and operates
Yeah.
actual locations, I mean that just skyrockets credibility there. Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. What is, so I mean, kind of already answered this already, but I'm still going to ask it. What, in order for the next level up, what do you have to do kind of on the ground now to
Mhm.
make sure that all the goals, all the things that you guys want to see in 2024, what do you have to do now to kind of make sure that it all comes together the way that you need it to?
Well, we've been working hard for the past several months to create our 2024 footprint, is what we call it. And I have beefed up the team. I've hired additional information givers. We do not have a sales force. We call ourselves information givers. So we now have 3 people on the information giver team that help work all the new leads because we're very blessed and we get a lot of new leads. Also realized that because we were opening so many new stores, we needed to bring in some additional openers, which have already been hired and trained. I insist on hiring and training before they're needed. We'll never play catch up at Hawaii Fluid Art. We also, one of the biggest things that we did is we decided to outsource all of our marketing. We've decided to partner with a major marketing and PR firm to help create a name awareness across the nation for Hawaii Fluid Art. And we have just started that and we're extremely excited, which takes a big load off because doing all your marketing and everything in-house is just a lot. And so we vetted and
I can imagine.
interviewed I think 6 or 7 different national companies, and we're really excited on who we've decided to partner with. And the list just kind of goes on. We look at how many locations we're going to be opening. So how many brand expansion managers do we need? What months those new brand expansion managers need to start to be fully trained? And so by the end of this year, we will probably have a corporate staff of, based on our footprint, of 40 people.
Oh, and are they all spread out across? I mean, they'd have to be, right? Are
Yeah,
they
they're all
fully
over the
remote? Are
place.
they all in?
Yeah.
Do you have a centralized? Do you have a centralized corporate location?
Mhm. Yeah, we sure do in Cedar Hill, Texas. It's
You do? Okay,
our corporate office, which is opening.
nice.
We open it the 1st of January, and then we also have a flagship location in Las Vegas that opens January 1st, which I'm extremely
Oh,
excited about. And we are actually putting another corporate office in Vegas because we need to have one close to California because we're going to have probably 200 units just in California.
wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
it's a big
How
state.
has so the celebrity thing early on was a big influence for you. Has that carried? Has that tapered off? Has that changed at all? Has anybody came back and wanted to like continue? I'm curious how that's kind of played out because it sounded like initially it was a pretty big influence for you to get on
Yeah.
this journey.
Well, I think I just didn't know anything about franchising, and I don't think it would have mattered if it was a famous person or just, a normal person, which I think famous people are normal. But anybody that would have reached
Sure.
out to me and said, "Hey, you should franchise," I would have listened. It just so happened that these particular
Yeah.
people are well-known actors and actresses. I will never ask my students, whoever they are, to help. It's my job to help them. So I'm never going to ask for anything from them.
Yeah.
And yes, those relationships remain. They're in my cell phone. I can send them text messages, but I will never ask if they want to say something, if they want to do a Facebook post or an Instagram post great, but I'm never going to ask because it's my job to support and give to them, to nurture them. And so it's cool, we have those relationships, but yeah, I don't utilize them for anything.
No, and I respect that. Okay, last question, and
Okay.
then we'll wrap this up. What would you say to a young I'm building out the avatar for you, a young woman
Okay.
who maybe she's a mom, maybe she's not, but is maybe struggling to identify who she is and what her strengths are. And she wants to get off a zero, but she doesn't really know where to start. Or maybe she doesn't necessarily see the value in where she's currently at. And it doesn't have to be a young woman, but I want this from you because I I think you can speak into this person. So what would you say to just help motivate them to take that step?
Okay, so I'm gonna close my eyes because I'm visualizing this person, and what I would say to them is that belief in yourself is not an option. And just because right now you have a broken down car or whatever the case may be, or you're tight on rent, what I need you to do is visualize the future that you want. I want you to visualize the woman that you will be a year from now, 2 years from now, so on. Because the woman you are right now is still that woman in the future. Time just hasn't gotten you there yet. And I want you to write letters to yourself. I want you to tell yourself all the beautiful, capable things that are you as a human, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whatever the case may be. And then I want you to write a list of everything that you want to see in yourself. So outspoken, driven, successful, whatever it is, all the way down, even if it's driving an Audi, right? I want an Audi. And you have to revisit that all the time. You have to picture yourself where you want to be now, because visualization and manifestation to me are real. And it's because I see myself where I am or where I'm going to be, and I just have to let time catch up. And the other thing is ask questions and don't be ashamed. Never be ashamed of the position that you're in. It is circumstance that has you there. It is not a reflection of who you are, your character, your value. I was a broke single mom. You know, my first husband walked out on me when I had a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old with a note on the table. And I was thrust into single momhood. And let me tell you, if I can do it, you can do it. And it's so important for people to understand and realize that successful people have had shit pass and that they too struggle and have low moments and feelings of, I'm not good enough. I got to do more. And I think that having that relationship or that mentorship with young people that may be struggling, don't just give them what they need. Talk to them about what they need to do to get what they need. And so, I mean, that could be a whole nother conversation. I have so many things to say to young people that don't know where to go
Yeah.
and how to get it. But it's never going to be just handed to you. You got to work. That takes drive and dedication and sometimes loneliness. You don't get to go out clubbing with your friends. You got to focus on what your goals are. There's just so much to say about that. But that's my snippet.
Wow. No, that is absolutely amazing. And I resonate with that. And again, I'm big on the whole core values thing. And one of my core values is value adder. And
Mhm.
so this whole episode, I mean, you just added so much value to me
Mhm.
and for the audience, for the individual that is listening to this right now. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your story. And this has just been great to talk to you. And I will take you up on that offer and bring my kids out to your studio
Please
and get to hang
do.
out for a little bit. So people can reach out. They can see you on. I know you're on LinkedIn. I know all your studios are on Instagram. Any last final words before I close this out? I mean, you already did it. I feel bad even asking you for anything else.
Just thank you for having me, and thank you for helping inspire people, and thank you for being you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, at that, thanks for listening. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.
All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Thank you for making it to the end. Hey, if you like this episode, if it added value in any way to your life, do me a favor, give it a like, share it with a friend, give me a review, leave a comment, whether that's a rocket emoji, thumbs up, a fire, 100 emoji, leave me something. It's the only way to get this out there to other people, and I appreciate you so much for listening. As always, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.